My name's Rock. This is a new video. Cue the title card. Alright, so welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It has been the one hell of a Stephen bomb, if you will. And I gotta say, everything we knew about gem fusion and how it works got thrown out the window. And we got a little more inside detail about what exactly is going on between gems when they do fuse. Now, for any younger audience, which, mind you really shouldn't be hanging around me because you might pick up words that your parents may not like you saying. Best way I can figure out what gem fusion is to gems, what might be equivalent in humans, is sex. I know that comes off really strange, but think about it. Think about the way that Garnet acted after she found out that Pearl was using her to form sardonyx. Which, need I mind you, throws everything out the fucking window! As far as what we know with gem fusion works. Now, I've been trying to figure this out for a while now. It's taken me about a week to digest it, seeing as Stephen Bomb 3 ended little over a week ago. It's Thursday the 23rd as of recording this, and Stephen Bomb ended last Friday. Now, if this is the case, then it makes a lot more sense. Just less sexualized. That makes any sense whatsoever. Now, best I can tell from what gem fusion works when it's concerning more than two gems is that we primarily assume that the suffix "ite" is ended at the end of the gem name, like in the case of Alexandrite, 4 gems, or in the case of Sugilite, 3 gems. Perhaps this is a general rule and not a always law. That being that an always law would be it's always going to happen this way, no exceptions. But in the case of sardonyx, which is made up of 3 gems, ruby, sapphire, and pearl. Shut up, Pokemon fans, this is not for you. Basically throws that suffix out the window. This is also therefore confirming that Jasper may not in fact be a 2-gem fusion as some have theorized, which doesn't really make sense. A gem is a gem unless it's got 2 gems, in which case it's a fusion, like we see with Garnet. Now, some people have claimed, where is Malachite's 2nd gem that would make up Lapis? My guess is that it's under her hair. And or it's an animator mistake. These things happen, you know. The episode may have gotten rushed out and they didn't have time to put the final details, or they may have completely forgot about it. Stuff like this does in fact happen. Animation mistakes like this. And I would not be surprised to see at some episode later down the road when you get a big fight sequence between insert gem name here and Malachite, you actually do see Lapis's gem somewhere on Malachite's back, making up for an animation mistake. We don't know. But that's just a thought in theory. But the big focus that I've come here to talk to you today is lion. What is lion? Now, I've thought about this long and hard, and I really don't have much proof to back me up on this, other than scientific deduction and reasoning. Now, before I begin, to those of you who know the theory, no spoilers. There is the law of conservation of mass and the law of conservation of energy. These two laws make up the base principle of most chemical and physical changes in any scientific setting. For example, a chemical change would be burning a piece of wood. Both laws state basically the same principle. You cannot create nor destroy, only change form. That's basically what conservation of mass and energy state. In the case of burning a piece of wood, the mass doesn't change. You're just breaking down the bonds that hold the atoms together through a chemical change, in this case, fire. The atoms break down into smaller atoms, such as the case with carbon being the hardest to break, and that's why it's the last to go. And that is why it's the last element in a piece of burnt wood. That's why wood's black. Carbon is black. Why do you think the color carbon black exists? Now, the conservation of energy principle states basically the same thing. An example would be through a chemical change, or through an energy change, would be an electric turbine being powered by a steam fan generator at a power plant. Basically, you're boiling water through either coal or some type of nuclear fission to boil water, which creates steam. That steam is then funneled into a vacuum pressure that pushes a big turbine. That turbine then does physical labor and creates electricity. Now, if we're going to go with a coal plant, you're turning coal into ash, which is basically pure carbon. You're changing its physical characteristics and using its energy given off by changing its physical characteristics through a chemical change to create a new form of energy. That energy being heating the water to energize water into steam. That's basically what you're doing. You're exciting the molecules. When you excite the molecules, they move around. To better illustrate this principle, if you were to look at an atomic level anyways, molecules in a block of ice, molecules in a cup of water, and steam in a balloon, you would see that they don't really change around. Water is incompressible because it's polarized. It's a polar molecule, meaning that it has an equal negative and positive charge. So it's incompressible. The charges repel at an equal force and are unable to compress any further once you've reached its max capacity. That's why it makes for such a great cutting tool. Moving back along to the example. If you were to look at the block of ice, you'll see fairly structured, organized, crystalline structures, and a very slow-moving molecule that may be just shaking about like this. Whereas with the cup of water, you're going to see a much more organic fluid motion, as is the case with water, with molecules doing something like this. In the balloon of steam, however, because they're so energized, because there's so much heat that is charged into them because of the electrons being given off that's creating that heat, the molecules are bouncing around all over the place, zipping all over the place. The more pressure you have, the more heat you have. That's basically the chemical change, or the energy form change. You're turning one form of energy into another. You're creating heat from a fuel source that is then boiling another fuel source to power a fan to do mechanical labor, which then turns a dynamo to create electricity. Let's see, how many changes is that? Fire, water, steam. 4 changes right there in a coal power plant. In some. Now, not all machinery is 100% efficient. In fact, probably won't see it for the next, I'm going to say 500 years, if we don't screw ourselves over environmentally. You won't see machines efficient more than 20% with their energy conservation. What that means is all forms of energy transfer, when you change one form into another, there's also a byproduct energy. You have your direct mechanical labor when you have steam, but you also have a ridiculous amount of heat. Because in order to do any kind of work, there's always going to be energy loss. However, it does not go away. It doesn't simply disappear from existence. It just changes form. And in most cases, it's heat. That is the most common form of energy release and inefficiency that you see in any mechanical device, small or large. Now, I'm getting to a point explaining this. Now that we've established what basically the law of conservation of mass and energy is, now we get on to the fan theory. And you may have heard about it, but there are people out there suggesting lion is rose. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Lion is well, let's be honest, is not your normal lion. It's a very magical being in essence. Is able to teleport around from place to place, though has shown no real vocal skills but a liking to Steven. And of course, there's also the fact that both Rose and Lion are pink. Yeah, I know, it's so stupid, it's unbelievable. But it makes a little more sense when you think about it. Basically, what I'm thinking is going on is that you have laws of conservation of energy and mass going on. While yes, Rose did conceive and bring Steven in here, into this world, that being the fandom, doesn't mean that she completely disappears. Obviously, this is the case with Steven's gem. He inherited it from her, obviously. But what about the rest of her? My assumption is that it works something like this. If the theory is in any way, shape, or form true, what you have is that Steven attains most of Rose's magical powers and potentially some of her memories. Potentially. I mean, this is just, granted, realm of speculation. But what happens to the rest of her? Ask me, it makes a lot of sense. Energy cannot be destroyed nor created, only changed forms. And considering a gem's body in a physical plane is merely illusion, an image generated by what we can only assume is energy, it makes sense that something that powerful doesn't just disappear. It makes more sense if it changed into something different, to keep identities concealed. And what better form than a lion? I mean, if you stop and think about it, lions are powerful, they're very strong, and somewhat mysterious. They keep to themselves. I mean, if I was in Rose's position, I'd do that. I would choose some kind of avatar, if you will, for reincarnation, if you will, if you would use such terms to describe what's going on, to quote-unquote come back. I would want something that could protect both myself and others, but at the same time without alerting to anyone to what I have. Now, this is sort of given leniency to the fact that this could still potentially be Rose, and that there might actually be some weight to this by one instance. The fact that Lion has stuff that not even Pearl knew about. Now, if Pearl is right in saying that she told her and only her everything, it makes sense to me that that is in fact Rose. I mean, if she lost her scabbard, what better place would she keep it than on her person at all times? Or, if she, for whatever reason, kept the battle flag, she basically got fucking infinite storage up here. But what really tells me, though, is in... God, what was the name of the episode? Where Steven finds out about Lion. Lion 3 Straight to Video, I want to say, is the episode's name. Yeah, yeah, I think so. Is the VHS. Why? Why would Lion have something so specific for Steven? Why? That's what I want to know. My money says Lion is in fact Rose, just in a different form. And who knows, maybe her memories are all gone, maybe her memories are still there. Some are, some aren't. Who knows? Like any energy or physical change, there is loss. There is the bonds between molecules that is lost. And in an energy change, you have heat given off, which is waste energy. If that's the case, perhaps Rose's memories are affected in some way, shape, or form. Or perhaps she's just keeping silent to herself, if this is the case. But alas, I've rambled on and chewed your ear off enough. This has been my theory on Steven Universe. Please support the creators of the title cards, as they spent a lot of time working on them. I greatly thank them so many times over, because they've probably made one of the best title cards I've ever seen, and am very grateful for being able to use. Thank you a bunch. Links to their channel here, and go subscribe to them after you subscribe to me. And until then, Steven Universe fandom, peace out.